really there's no better example of how I've had to overcome a challenge due to a central issue with my background than my rather long process of coming out of the closet. And of course, as I mentioned previously, I had very traditional Asian parental pressures growing up, to the point where I knew it was expected of me to marry a Chinese girl and have Chinese grandchildren and live with my parents when I was older. You know, these were all things that were ingrained in me. And so that made coming out a really difficult process for me. And I would say all came to a head really during college. And at that time, I was really wrestling with how I was going to deal with it. And in a way, I was really suppressing it by throwing myself into a multitude of academics and extracurriculars, keeping myself such that I had no spare hour to think about anything other than my schoolwork and my extracurriculars. And in hindsight, I look back at that now and say, I was actually just escaping. I was finding every excuse possible to not have to deal with this issue, not have to one day face my parents and say, hi, I'm not giving you a Chinese wife and Chinese grandchildren, and I don't know how to explain this to you, you know? And in a way, I think back to that time of my life and think, was all my ambition just like fabricated and in a way false, because it was just it was just a coping mechanism. And for a while, I actually struggled a little bit with that and said, I'm not actually an ambitious person. I just needed a lot of distraction to get through a tough period. And now I think I can look back fondly and realize that everybody comes out on their own pace, on their own terms, in their own specific life circumstances and context. And I'm completely now at peace with, you know, how even if I think back to it being long, it was my way and I did it on my schedule. And it's taken me a while to come to that realization, but now I sort of celebrate that hardship of having to do that back then.